Hey, that's not rubbish.
Hello, I'm Lexi, and this is That's Not Rubbish, the one and only podcast where we talk to cool people who turn garbage into cool things. Doesn't get better than this. Happy Monday, happy March. Today we're hanging out with Zach Hippie of Vultúre Reclaimed.
Hey,
Hey. Zach is living the secret double life of a Midwestern energy engineer by day and blanket thrift flipper by night. Yeah. And you also got like a little accent mark over that second U in Vulture. Like, what is it, like Vulture? Vulture?
yeah. So I guess let me give you a little background on that. So there's a show called The Hype, and I don't know if you've heard it, but it's essentially like a fashion competition for streetwear designers. And last season there was an artist on there whose brand was Dom Pigeon, but spelled exactly like damn pigeon. Dom Pigeon. So I love that. I'm an avid birder too. So I stuck with the vulture, and it's actually Vultúre, Vultúre
Vulture.
reclaimed. But
Vulture.
I take vulture reclaimed as well. It doesn't matter.
Vulture couture.
Exactly, Vultúre couture. That was the idea. You snuffed it out.
Yeah, thank you. I do French on Duolingo. So yeah,
There
I'm
you
pretty fluent.
go. I tried that and failed, but
Yeah, I haven't gone in at least a year, but I'll get back after this. This is sponsored by Duolingo.
there
No,
you go.
but today we're going to dive into the world of reworked blankets and end with a little retail therapy session with Zach and talk about this balance between, being an artist or a creator with everyday life. But I didn't tell Zach, so it's kind of an intervention. No jokes. Because, yeah, I mean, Zach and many upcyclers live this double life of doing what they need to do to pay the bills and just survive, and then doing what they love to do and what they find, meaning in. I think we all have our thing, but it's a very common topic in most of the arts and creative worlds. And who doesn't love a good mid-March rant, right? So
Exactly. There you
here it
go.
goes. Yeah. But first things first, a bit of good news. I'm going to say the sad part fast and then the positive solution, get into that. We're talking egg laying hens. So, as my chicken lovers may know, hens start, or maybe because you're a bird guy, but hens start laying eggs at around 4 months old, and then they stop when they're around 18 months, or at least they slow down. And then once they aren't able to produce eggs, they're sent to the slaughterhouse. That's the part I said fast, but not anymore. Well, some UK chickens aren't anymore. They are being saved thanks to a charity in the UK called the British Hen Welfare Trust, and they are dedicated to rescuing these little chickadees and finding them a home. It's really cool. It started in 2005 with the goal to just save 100 hens, but since that, they saved about 1 million hens. Saved
Wow.
homes. Yeah,
Wow.
crazy.
That's crazy.
It is. It's really cool. It's nice to hear. I mean, I love animals. We all love animals. So it's nice to hear that someone is taking the time to think about where they're going.
So they just rehome the chickens, I'm assuming, or they take them in?
Yeah,
Wow.
they take them in. It's actually they work with like kind, sweet-hearted farmers around the UK who give up their hens once their laying capabilities, their laying abilities start to decline. Because they want them to live a happy life. So it's nice. Oh,
That's amazing. Yeah, that's great news.
yeah. Looking for a pet, Zach?
I am gonna get chickens eventually once I get a house.
This
So
is great news.
yeah. So I'll be keeping that dial on ready to call for those chickens.
Oh, fabulous. Well, if anyone's looking for a pet, also I'll link it in the description. You get free eggs too.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, they're slowing down doesn't mean they don't have any, they're still popping them out every now and then. Yeah, cruelty free.
Love it.
Agreed. Speaking of chickens, I see a lot of feed sacks used as materials by upcyclers, usually for shorts or something. And I mean, you're a man of many mediums, Zach. Have you ever played around with feed sacks?
I haven't. That's that's definitely something I really do want to try out. I'm a little bit nervous about kind of the texture of them being so rough. So I could see making a jacket or something that's lined. That would be nice. I know that at least my local coffee shop, they also sell the coffee bean bags as well. So it's kind of a similar thing. So that's something I want to start buying because they sell them for like $5 a piece, and that's kind of cheap. So
Yeah, cool. I was gonna say it's like it's an interesting sourcing process. Like I don't know where you get the feed sacks when they're done, but if you're gonna get some chickens in the future, maybe it will all work out.
there you go. And it's
Perfect.
very it plays into the Midwest, I think, of my background. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wore my Detroit hat for you today, Zach, because I'm from Michigan. Just
love it.
yes. Yes, yes, you're so welcome. But so I guess what materials do you gravitate towards?
I'm kind of a texture guy, I would say. So I definitely gravitate towards things with kind of interesting textures, things that are like quilted blankets. I definitely like, tablecloths, that kind of thing. Things that, well, I like to gravitate towards things that maybe aren't going to be used as much as far as thrifting. I like to kind of leave the sweatshirts and other things for people that will actually use them. But things like blankets, shower curtains, tablecloths, all those things, they're definitely not as frequently purchased and bought from thrift stores. So I think they're really good to use. And a lot of them, the reason they're in the thrift store is because they have got holes and rips and that sort of thing in them. And so my thought is, who's going to buy a ripped up blanket? Me. That's who. So then I take it, and sometimes that even like where the holes are will actually kind of determine the design of the whole thing, just because I have to work around those holes.
Wow.
So yeah, I like to gravitate towards things that somewhat unconventional, but things that maybe people aren't going to actually thrift, just because that might end up in the trash. So
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to upcycle. Sometimes it's a bit hard to watch people tear apart like really nice new things. Um,
yeah,
so I love this. And yeah, let's dig deeper on, I guess, blanket coat lore. I mean, it's still pretty cold outside, and when looking at your work, it's definitely a signature. And not to mention, like every upcycler is making blanket coats. It's definitely in the upcycler starter pack. It's a signature.
yeah, no, I think they're really obviously they're beautiful and they're cozy. You can't really go wrong with throwing on a big blanket sweatshirt because it's just so comfy, and they're also unique as well. But yeah, the other thing too is they're really easy as far as a beginner goes to work with. They're not overly difficult. It's not like you're working with something that's really thin or flexible or stretchy or anything like that. It's really just nice and durable, and keeps your stitches nice and straight, and allows you to kind of play around with cool graphics and cool patterns and things like that. Not to mention there's just so many blankets out there that they really need to be something needs to be done with them, because
Yes, they
I
need
go
you.
to a thrift store and there's like 20-30 blankets, and obviously I have the thought process of like, well, who could actually use these, but there's lots of blankets that just aren't going to be reused, so might as well upcycle them, I think.
Rescuing chickens to the left, rescuing blankets to the right. Zach, you are the modern day Peter Parker.
There you go.
Dare I say it? Well, that was like most of my questions. I was going to ask, like, what is the hype with the blanket lore? Like, are they fun to make, easy to
I think,
find?
yeah, they're fun to make, and I think with the specific ones that people a lot of times are drawn to, they're kind of like a woven tapestry kind of type blanket with all, there's always like birds or flowers or all sorts of things on them. A lot of times you'll find them with like sports teams and that kind of thing. And so those are, yeah, they're really easy to work with. And then I think the end product, even if it's put together poorly, it looks really nice. And I don't know, there's something just very satisfying about taking that large sort of image and cutting it down and kind of seeing the different parts on the sweatshirt that just looks kind of so cool.
Oh, totally. Now every time that I'm thrifting, I do go to the blanket section, even if I know I'm not gonna like make any of them. I don't know how to. But I just like envision it. I'm like, this would be the front, this would be the back. Like they're so cool. I mean, there's so many unique patterns and
Mhm.
graphics on them. You can definitely count on the blankets being one of a kind. Like you're probably, if you're lucky, you'll find another one, but there's just not two of the same tapestry blanket out
Yeah,
there.
it's usually very difficult. And a lot of times I find that there's I don't know if this was like a phase in the 90s or something, but there's a lot of blankets out there where they're like one-off, like someone had created this blanket for their grandma or
Mhm.
something like that, and it may even say their name on it. And so you just know that that doesn't exist anywhere else. And especially if it's got a name on it, like who wants to bring home a blanket with someone else's name on it? No one. So
Exactly.
you take it home, you upcycle it, all of a sudden it gets a whole new life instead of just kind of sitting there gaining dust.
And it's like widening the people it could belong to. Like when you go
Yeah,
to a
exactly.
store and there's not a keychain with your name on it, you're not going to buy the keychain, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. I think one of my favorite ones recently was there was a Pooh Bear baby blanket with some kid's name on it, holes all around it. And so I brought it home, upcycled it, put it into a new sweatshirt, and sold it to like an adult who just loved it. So it's kind of like brand new life, new utility. I mean, it's even an adult using it now instead of a baby. So it's just kind of like, it's pretty cool how you can reclaim stuff like that.
Yeah, it doesn't get better than that. And you can even take your childhood blankets, like ask
Yeah.
your family for
Yeah.
them and turn them into something that you can wear now. You just
Yeah.
gave me
I've
an
had a
idea.
I've had a few inquiries about that. In fact, I think couple years ago, I had actually taken from my late grandma's clothing and took it and made a quilt out of it for my grandpa.
Beautiful.
I had a few other people reach out and ask about like, oh, we've got all these baby clothes. It'd be great if we could make something from this versus just throwing them out. Baby clothes is another thing where it's pretty difficult to thrift and reuse baby clothes a lot of times because they're dirty, they're used, they're old, whatever. And
Right.
so they end up just in the trash. And that's a lot of memories throughout those clothes. So I think that might be kind of one of the next things I'm working on this year and for customs is utilizing those special garments and special fabrics that people have and making something that they can kind of keep using rather than just sitting in a box.
Oh my, there's nothing more impactful I think an upcycler could do than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is like the real difference, the real hoarding too, is all the stuff under my bed that I can't throw away.
Yeah, exactly. And then you make something new out of all of it, and then you can still appreciate all that old stuff without having to feel like it's just some stagnant energy under your bed.
I love this idea, Zach. That's very cool. Yeah, very cool. And yeah, you are reminding me that blankets do hold a lot of like sentimental value to a lot of people. And that's why they are one of a kind, is a lot of the time they are customs or a grandma quilting something for someone. Like you just can't replicate that. So it's very cool that you're giving them new life and everything. And you're also, I'm being reminded that there are different kinds of blankets. Like you got like the tapestry ones, which have like the graphics and the illustrations on them with the fringe on the end. Quilts, very unique and homey. Crochet, like the little decor blankets, also handmade. Those got to be kind of hard to work with because when you cut the thread, it kind of all
Yeah,
unravels.
crochet is a little bit harder, but you can still work with it. Yeah, I mean, I guess fun fact about crochet is that there's no machine made crochet. So you will never see any crochet that was made by a machine. It's all made by hand by humans. And
Yeah.
so I think you just never want to underappreciate crochet because it's pretty spectacular. When you see these big blankets at a thrift store, you might think, oh, it's just a $5 blanket, but someone took hours and hours and hours to make that by hand. And so it's pretty incredible. I find it kind of like a gift when I find a good crochet that I can upcycle because someone else handmade that and now I'm hand making it into something else. And it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the beauty of seeing a $5 crocheted piece on Sheen.
Yeah. And they're very nostalgic too, the crochet stuff. So I mean, I see lots of old people always coming up. Oh, I remember I used to have the same blanket.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like the sentimental value, like you can really like grip someone with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any other kinds of blankets I'm forgetting?
I mean, there's lots of just like big kind of fluffy blankets, that kind of thing. I mean, I guess this is like a plaid blanket back here. I mean, so there's all sorts of kind of blankets. So
You work with a lot with the fluffy ones, and
yeah,
I
I
mean
do like the fluffy ones.
the sensation of wearing a fluffy blanket. Like cue the Snuggie commercials. This is
Yeah,
the
they're a big and fluffy, and they just feel like, yeah, you're wrapped up in a big blanket. I just thought, they've got Snuggies, but how about we just make a sweatshirt out of a blanket? It's better. You can wear that in public without
yeah,
people, you can wear that in public without people looking at you.
100%. And you should, and you
Yeah,
should wear those
you
all the
should.
time.
You
Yeah. Yeah, who needs snugging when you have Vultúre?
Exactly.
Want to play a fun game and rank the blanket types from like the most fun to work with to least? And I say fun rather than easiest because I don't know if you're like a fun like a guy that likes a good challenge or not.
I
So
do. I
yeah,
do.
I
Yeah, I
figured.
like a good challenge. I would say I like the probably the funnest and most satisfying ones are blankets that have like a good bottom that basically they'll have a top fabric and then a bottom fabric that's all finished off really nicely. So when you actually build the sweatshirt, it basically makes it look like a lined sweatshirt. So it looks really nice and quality. So those are usually more expensive blankets. Like I have this one right here. This one was made from an UGG blanket. And so that one was like a nice quality one. So I would say that's number one, kind of big quality, fluffy blankets. Number two has got to be the tapestry ones because those are just very fun. A lot of them are difficult to work with, and the threads, they just go crazy. You have to really be careful with them. But
Oh yeah,
those are
I was talking about the crochet ones being crazy, but those ones are probably way
those ones are even worse, I would say, because they
yeah.
just as soon as you make that cut, it's like all the threads just want to come loose. And so you got to be really careful. You don't want to move the fabric too much as you're working with it. Otherwise, you're going to kind of mess it up. So that's probably number two.
Gotcha.
Number three, probably just, yeah, probably the crochet stuff because I love the way that stuff looks. And I love kind of just putting those in random panels in clothes and it just looks so incredible. And they're useful too because they're warm, but because they've got all those holes, you actually get like a decent breeze. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice when if you go outside, you actually get like a nice breeze. It's not overly hot. So that's kind of the issue with some of the blanket sweatshirts is they're kind of too warm sometimes.
Sure.
But the crochet, yeah, that's where it's at.
Perfect, Goldilocks. Nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
exactly. Then I guess four or five, just kind of any other generic blankets, really. I mean, I like blankets that have like animals on them. So that maybe we could call that a category. You
Sure.
know, anything with birds, horses. I mean, anything like that. I love. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I love the idea of working with blankets because I say it all the time, you know, sheets, blankets, curtains, they're the biggest loophole in the manufacturing matrix. Like, why spend a ton of money on fabric when you can thrift a blanket? They're both just giant pieces of
yeah,
fabric.
it's already fabric. You don't have to do anything to it. It's ready for you to use. That's the best thing about all these. Yeah, like you said, bedding stuff, tablecloths, all that. It's just big sheets of fabric, you know.
Right.
And I think, with like tablecloths and that sort of thing, I think with the newer generations, the trends are they don't use these type of things. You don't see people putting tablecloths out. So they're really kind of like a relic of the past that people don't really use anymore. So you might as well use them for upcycling.
Wait, that's so true. Like, I haven't seen a tablecloth in so long.
Yeah, yeah. They're not, you don't, I mean, it's just a tradition of the past. Not that anything's wrong with it, but it's just not, it's part of the excess that I think that the newer generations want to cut out. So
I would agree. I would agree. I remember like I'm 24 now, but when I was turning like 20, like becoming a young adult, you know, I was like, I'd be looking around like Marshalls or like those home goods stores or even just like my parents' house or like friend's house. And you see like the little things that you're going to have to buy one day, like pillows and tablecloths and like the little rings you put around napkins or like wine glasses. And like, this is all stuff that I'm going to have to buy one day. But like, why? Like, what
Mhm.
is it for?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
if you want to use it, sure. But otherwise, I mean, even if you want to use it, go thrift it. You don't need to buy anything new. But yeah, there's lots of that. Even like I think there were these old things that maybe I think they laid on the back of like a recliner chair and they would like hold like remotes and other things like that. So I see those all the time. And those
oh,
are
yeah,
just
I forget
really
about that.
sheets as well. So those are really easy to work with. I have no idea what they're called, but
Remote holders.
yeah, back of chair remote holders. I'm not really sure.
That's what I heard. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, another relic of the past. I doubt that's coming back anytime soon.
Vintage. Well, do you have any secrets or like tips to thrifting the perfect blanket? I guess to use or to reuse?
Yeah, I mean, I think Well, first of all, you got to know kind of which materials you are good at working with. But typically, as far as like blankets go, you're gonna want to work with something that's a little more like medium weight. Because when you go towards the lightweight, it gets a little more difficult, and then heavyweight is just like a headache if it's too heavy. So
For
I would say,
sewing
yeah,
machines
yeah,
too, yeah.
yeah. Stick to medium weight. That's usually the best way to get clean results right away.
Got you. Cool. Anything that like, are there any things that we should look for when we're like looking for a blanket to repurpose that we should like not cut up? Are there like holy grails of blankets that are just like preserved and like cherished and just like
There
should
probably is. There's probably, I know, because there's so much vintage lore out there on what is rare and all that. But I don't know. I really don't know. I think if it's something you really like and you cherish it, don't cut it up, sure. But I think most blankets are probably a game. I don't think there's any holy grail of blankets out there, but there might be.
I can't wait to see you find one.
Yeah. I found a couple that are like I know are really rare. Like there was one by an artist, Mira Fujita, who was like an artist from I think the 80s, who basically painted like Renaissance women
Oh
in like
wow.
just a really beautiful way. And so I found a blanket with her art on it, which I thought was
Oh my
pretty
God. Yeah.
incredible. So that one was one of my probably more rare ones because I did actually look it up out of curiosity after I cut it up. But I looked at it to see how much the blanket was. And I did see it on eBay for, 100 to $200. So I was like, okay, so
Whoa.
it's an expensive blanket, but
Yeah.
still the sweatshirt is pretty cool. So
Yeah. Give that one a little chang. Yeah, for sure. So, last question on the whole creation process before we switch over to your other life. Um, Put a number on it. How long does it take you to make a blanket?
let's see, to make a blanket sweatshirt, I
Oh
mean,
yeah, blanket sweatshirt.
yeah, if there's not too many extra details or anything, pockets and things going in it, I could probably pull one out in 3 or 4 hours or so.
Okay,
Yeah, but
good
it really
chunk of
depends
time.
on the blanket that I'm working with, and once you start adding pockets and other kind of additions to it, it gets a little bit longer. But
Yeah.
yeah, probably 3 4 hours.
No, that's a good. That's I like to ask people that. I like to hear that because I feel like sometimes, um, us non-upcyclers, not me naturally, I'm your biggest fan, but sometimes I'll look at the stuff and I'm like, oh, that's easy to make. You just cut it into two panels, put some sleeves on it, it's a blanket. But no, like you're well, you can only make like two a day or else you're
Yeah.
working overtime. Yeah.
It's still a lot, and I know personally I am fairly fast at sewing compared to a lot of
Uh-huh.
people, and a lot of people just kind of take their time a little bit more than I might do sometimes.
Yeah.
So I would say 3 hours is like a minimum. I could see
Yeah.
people spending up to like 8 hours or so on a sweatshirt. So never underestimate how much time people actually put into making these things because it's a lot of work, and it might look simple, but it's not. It's just not.
Yeah. It just isn't.
Yeah.
And if you see crochet on fast fashion websites, just remember someone spent their time making that.
Yep. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It
No.
just if it's this price, if it's this low of a price, how much do you think the person who made it is getting? That's how I like to think
Like,
about it. So very little is usually the answer.
yeah. Yeah. Make your pockets hurt for some crochet for sure.
Yeah, do it, and appreciate the artists that make it because it's pretty incredible. So
Yeah. Speaking of that, let's shift to your other life, Midwest energy engineer Zach.
yes, that is me. So
I don't know if you have to like do any ritual to like bring them out or anything. I'll just give you a minute to do that.
maybe I need to change my outfit back to a more engineering outfit. No, he's still here. I always have a very logical and engineering mind, but it does, going from fashion designing and art, transferring over to a very technical thing like that. I usually have to take some sort of little break or mental something to switch over because it's a lot.
I knew it.
And I think vice versa is even harder going from working all day and then going back to fashion or something at night is yeah, you definitely need to take like a meditation or a walk or something to switch the mindset.
Yeah. So walk us through a day in the life of a Midwestern energy engineer by day, an outfit of the day, loving blanket thrift flipper by night.
Yeah, I guess I work a normal 8 hour a day, 9 to 5 kind of job. It's remote. It's I said it's basically energy engineering, but essentially I work with buildings to save them energy and money. I guess is a quick way to put it. But yeah, so by day it's just 9 to 5. I work remotely, so I get up and I just kind of sit at my computer, get my 8 hours done. I absolutely love that job because it's big into sustainability, which kind of brings the whole thing together. Obviously, with upcycling and that's big on sustainability. Yeah, then after that, I try to just switch gears and go right into fashion and creating and all that kind of thing. Typically, I try to mix in the fashion and stuff as I'm working. So like I'll get up in the morning and like you said, outfit of the day, I kind of like to pick out a good outfit because I think it's just fun to express yourself in that way and pick out a good outfit. And especially when you're working from home, doing those little things of getting up and making sure you put on a cool outfit or something like that is really a good way to break it up instead of just going from bed to computer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it can be very difficult to balance it all, to actually get your 40 hours work done and still have the mental capacity to work on everything else. But you work through it, and fashion and creativity tend to power me up and give me more energy than it does take it away. So that's always kind of nice, is you can kind of use it as a way to recharge the battery that maybe your 9 to 5 kind of drains a little bit.
That's a really good way to put that. Yeah, we'll have you dig deeper on that because that was really well said, I think. Well, I'm curious to hear, I guess briefly, have you noticed any similarities? I'm sure you have between upcycling and engineering.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, engineering is obviously a very mathematical field, very science field. And so I have I kind of have a split mind, but the mind that does engineering is very, very logical, very organized, very mathematical. And that allows me to be like a very professional, technical sewer. So I can pick up on a lot of parts of the sewing machine that maybe people don't pick up on as much just because I'm an engineer. So I get to know machines really well. And so I think that part has been the biggest part that I've noticed, is just all that technicality transferring over to how I'm actually sewing.
Yeah. No, I'm sure it definitely gives you an advantage. And I'm really happy to hear that you found a way to balance your two brains, I guess, or like your two interests or your two callings, whether it be day and night, engineering and upcycling. Like it's really important to have that outlet that gets you through the day and I guess just quenches all your thirsts. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a firm believer that everyone has the power to be both a logical mind and a creative mind. It's just the more you lean into one, the less the other one kind of gets worked and gets used.
Mhm.
And so the idea is to kind of use them both and kind of flex those brain muscles so that they stay strong.
I think this is a really nice way to segue into, I guess, the closing retail therapy session because you have a really nice spin on things. Like you have a really nice way of wording it. Like my approach is going to be like, we live in a sad world. We have to pay bills and phone bills and car bills and rent, and no one can be creative. But you put a good spin on it. Like maybe it is just the sense of logic and creativity. And I think that jobs and opportunities and maybe people that are more logical or are able to, implement more logic into things maybe are more appreciated by our society than creatives when creativity is seen more as like a spicer upper or an escape. So yeah, why don't you dig deeper on how you've been able to balance logic and creativity? Because there's definitely a place for creativity and logic to live together or for creativity to trump logic sometimes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. This always reminds me of, the ancient days of Rome and Italy and stuff where, the world cared about things like philosophy and paint and art and invention. And now with the invention of the computer and all that stuff, it's just become so logical. And I think it feels like there's a little bit of a shift happening in the world right now where things are starting to shift away from that,
I would
at least a
agree.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is, I mean, it's really incredible to see. But yeah, kind of balancing it all is it becomes difficult. You definitely want to, like I kind of mentioned earlier, when you're switching from logic to creativity, always kind of take some sort of break, whether it be a walk or it be a meditation, even if it's just watching TV for 10 minutes or whatever it might be, because going from logic to creativity can cause a lot of issues. When you're being creative, you want things to flow and you want there to be sort of almost little thinking, like the creativity is just kind of flowing through you, whereas logic is you're kind of analyzing everything and making decisions and slowing down and double checking and doing all that stuff, and you don't really want to do that with your art. It's gonna cause a lot of issues. So yeah, the real trouble becomes, making sure you can switch between the two.
Yeah. It's very important to be balanced. Balance is important in general with everything we do. So why not this aspect of our lives? Exactly. And it's nice to have an escape, a getaway, and to just be able to do more than one thing. Like it's nice to learn this about yourself or kind of like test yourself and see where you can go. So I definitely agree with that. But man, it really is frustrating, I guess, the way our society has viewed logic and creativity. You're right, by the way, I guess with technology, AI just can't do what creatives do a lot of the time. She can try all day, but she just can't do it. And then when you're right, like I guess it's easier to make like Excel spreadsheets and problem solve and do more of that when you're a computer. But yeah, it's nice to see the shift because up to now, it's felt like you do have all these bills you have to pay. You have all these responsibilities to do. You need to stay afloat or you will lose everything you have. You'll lose your home, your family will die, and you will just perish, you know? So it's like, how does that leave time for the fun stuff, like the stuff that you really want to do? Like in your case, upcycling. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, it's part of the reason I have a job, like a 9 to 5 job, is because of the way the world is right now, where it's not that the value is just money, but people don't obviously want to spend a ton of money on art and things like that. And so as an artist, it becomes difficult to actually make a living, basically.
Right.
And so you have to have this second job or it becomes very difficult to actually live. And so I'm actually really grateful that I have sort of a flexible job that allows this. But I know for a lot of people, it might be really difficult to have a 9 to 5, especially ones that aren't remote, that you actually have to go into an office or go into wherever for. It becomes very, very difficult. But I think once you start doing that creative or whatever the passion might be, if you start doing that on the side, it starts to make it all a lot easier, I think. I mean, it starts to make that 40 hours be on the computer or whatever it is kind of worth it. And it balances the whole thing better. I find that when I wasn't doing side hustles stuff, art, whatever on the side, that I couldn't let go of work. I was just work. And so when you're done with work, you're still thinking about work. You get up, you're thinking about work. Yeah. And this basically forces you to stop. Yeah. If creating forces you to give that part of your brain up and let it rest and work on other stuff. And like I kind of mentioned, the logic part, when you're working at work, it's logic. And then we're working on creativity, it's a whole different side of your brain. And so it's kind of like that side of your brain might not be as tired because you weren't using it during the day. So it's kind of easier to use that side than to go do more logical stuff or whatever.
You're so good at this. You should start your own podcast. That's a really good way to put things. Yeah. Like if you're tired of doing one thing, just do something else. It's a good way to escape and then feel less overwhelmed with the one thing.
And I think nowadays too, like there's so many things out there to just kind of, I don't know, distract your brain once you're done with work, things like TV and whatever. And it's a lot easier to put that on and kind of melt your brain a little bit, but it's a lot more satisfying and healthier for a brain when you get to do an activity like creating that actually fuels you up more and doesn't necessarily, I don't know, when I used to just kind of watch TV or do something else to at the end of the day, you just don't really get the same recovery. Yeah.
Or you just keep sinking into.
Yeah. It just kind of, it doesn't necessarily help you feel positive or whole.
Yeah.
To do though.
Yeah. Cause you can spend 7 days a week, working 9 to 5, but it's like what you do after 5. That's really what you want to do. So
I mean, that's what you are, I think. I mean, because your work it's not who you are. It's just something you do. So outside of that, the things that you may be truly passionate about your work too, which is fantastic if you have a job that you're passionate about. But a lot of people don't get that luck, that fortunate thing of finding something that they're absolutely in love with. So they may be just doing it for the job or the money or whatever it is. But outside of work, now you have the freedom to do whatever you want. You could be a creative, you could go out and be a hiker, you could be into photography, you can be into whatever it is. And those are the things that truly reflect kind of your feelings and your passions and whatever else. And so the more you can stick to doing those, the better you feel, I think.
We're all at once, right? And it's true. And of course, the dream is being able to do what you love as a career, blah, blah, blah. We hear that every day. But it's not so bad to have a job and then get to do what you love after work. Because hello, if you're doing what you love all the time, you might not love it anymore. And you can get burnt out. Like, talk about burnout. Yeah.
I think no matter your job, even if you love it, even if it's the thing you've dreamt about doing all of your life, there are going to be plenty of hours where you just hate it and you're cursing under your breath because there's just always things, no matter what the job is, that you don't want. It's just the way it is.
It's true, pros and cons, and it's human nature to complain. So I don't take it that seriously. You guys don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you have any, I guess, final words of wisdom for those juggling 2 lives or 2 brains?
Stay focused on the thing that you're more connected to. Don't ever let kind of your job pull you back, because in the end you can get another job. Stay focused on the things that you connect with, because I think the more you play into that, the more the universe will kind of help you get there.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. And
thank you.
I just want everyone to know as well that, pushing yourself is okay. Prioritizing things is okay. Juggling multiple things is great. Paying bills, necessary. But we really do need to be doing the things that we love. Just please know that creating isn't unproductive. It's not stupid. It's not a waste of time. It's not any of the negative things people might be telling you that are just don't understand the life. It's your life. And what is this? This is your life. So
exactly. Creating is one of the best things in the world, and everyone has the potential to do it. So figure out something that you feel drawn to and try it out, because there's no time but now.
And find the time, even if it's a second a day, 2 minutes the next, 3 hours the next day, 4 days straight. Like, just do it. Don't hold back and do what you got to do. Get done what you got to get done. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, like you had mentioned too, the whole AI thing, I think in the future with all this AI, creating might be one of the last things that we have that they can't compete with. So I think it's important.
They'll never get us.
Exactly.
We're safe. Well, thanks a million for coming on today, Zach. It's been really nice finally hearing your story and the little story behind your outfit of the days. and just diving into all things blankets. You really know what you're doing. You know how to pick them, and you know how to pick them apart. Very talented.
Oh.
My sister wants a hoodie. She DM'd you, I think.
Yes, I saw that.
So everyone DM Zach for a gorgeous, one-of-a-kind blanket masterpiece.
Yes, I do customs, so feel free to DM me and we'll work on something together.
Gorgeous. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Zach. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Lexi. I appreciate it. I love everything you're doing here, and keep spreading the good word of upcycling.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. And everyone, if you are enjoying the show, please feel free to donate. It keeps the party going. That's what we're all about, keeping things going. Share this episode with a friend that's always cold. They will love upcycled blankets. And have the
Oh,
best
they
day.
will.
Cheers.
Yeah. Have a good day, everyone.